Greetings, chess friends. Today we are going to see some games from some of the greatest chess players, men, women, old players, new players, young players. This is going to be a really interesting lesson and probably one that you've actually encountered some situation similar. So, talking king and pawn endgames today, but for all of those great players and great examples, we're going to have to wait. I mean, literally, we're going to have to wait. Today, we are looking at these waiting moves. You have to do it in chess. Sometimes you just don't want to move. What do you think? Can white win this game? Tough situation. I don't know. The double pawns. I can read your mind when it comes to chess, I think. And typically, that's what most less experienced or younger chess players are thinking. Can I win this game? Well, normally no, but if you really approach it with a little bit of big picture in mind, you know it's a draw, but you can always pass your turn using the other pawn. That's where the waiting move comes in. If this pawn were off the board, this would actually be a draw. But we can get all the progress. And then here, if this pawn, again, did not exist, this would be a stalemate, or we'd be forced to give up the pawn. But with g4, black is forced to move king f7 and king h7, taking the opposition, covering the queening square. White wins. So it really had to do exactly with those waiting moves. They're so powerful, the opportunity to pass the move. And in reality, it's just keeping your options open. I have more options than you, essentially. Here, another similar situation. Couple ways to win this one. However, h4 was played in this game. And after the only legal move, king b8, pawn b7. We have that typical pushing the pawn to the 7th rank idea. When it's not a check, you are winning, as white is in this case, again, promoting, and checkmate comes soon. You could have played king c7 on the original position, and then here just b7. So there was a few ways to win this one. We showed this one with just h4, a waiting move. Let's get to some real examples. Here are some players you may be familiar with. Perk or Pierce is the namesake of the opening. Move 1 against e4, d6. As well as Max Euwe was one of the world champions. In fact, he defeated Alekhine in a really surprising upset. Here, a game which looks nearly identical, and white, Max, was quick to trade pawns here. Going into this king and pawn endgame, which again looks symmetrical, if we could only get our king in there, but there's black king right there stopping us. Wow, it would be nice here to just pass our turn. Oftentimes, the opposition is a great time for a waiting move, because what does opposition really mean? When your kings are face to face like that, there's a line in the sand you cannot cross. Really, whoever's turn it is at a disadvantage. Therefore, if you could just pass b3, now black is forced to move. King e6, and here another important endgame technique, this so-called shouldering our way in. As the king is moving, we're able to push them aside, nudge them out of the way, so to speak, and the pawn helps to keep this square guarded. King e7, king f5, king d6, another opposition, king f6, and there's some try here for black, but really a good move, just king e6, another opposition, and for example, capture, And no matter where the black king goes, they're losing the pawn. These squares here are just off limits. So a nice game. I believe it was, I think it was after here b3 that he resigned, or maybe king g5 resigned, somewhere around here. I made a few extra moves just to illustrate the point. But a nice game there by the world champion Max Euwe. Let's see another, not quite world champion, but clearly the greatest in her category, Judith Polgar. With the black pieces here, black is heading down, has a nice pass pawn. She's playing against Michael Adams, legendary British Grandmaster. And really, white's pawns are horrible formation. They are isolated, doubled, separated, isolated. Everything is really weakened or not protected. And couple that with a pass pawn for black, this really spells disaster. Really, we're just waiting with this move as black wants to get her king to f5. There it is. King e3, and now really any king move, and white has to give ground. White has to let go of this pawn. So she plays a4, great move. And now white resigned the game, but he has to really just move the king and lose this pawn. Literally every move is losing. Zugzwang. If you move the pawn, we just take it. If you move your king, we just take here. Resigning, and again, of course, this pawn will still be passed. There'll be some work to do, as there always is, but clearly winning position for black. Thank you to the waiting moves. B5 and A4. So another important point, and let's just throw this out there to help everyone to understand as we bring up the next game. If you are going to be a strong chess player, you have to have a sense that either yourself, hopefully not, or your opponent are running out of moves. So when we get to this final position, A4, white is out of moves. Literally out of moves. You can't move. This one. So strong chess players all have this sense that the moves are running out, and as this is approaching. Always in the end game, of course. Here we have another world champion, Alexander Alekhine with white. Again, equal material. But where are those pass pawns coming from? From this moment, again, that opposition. The opposition is the perfect time to use those extra moves. Really, this one also falls in the category of outside pass pawn. The king is going to have to come this way to stop this, and then we will capture this one and work our way to the queen side, to the A file. H5, and again, these are waiting moves on the A file. Black gets the last one in. No more moves here, but white still has H6. This one falls in a slightly different category as it's not exactly a waiting move. For example, a king move like King D6 would immediately just lose. So this move, H6, does make progress, so not just a pass, so to speak. But any type of trying to protect that threat of G6 obviously drops the pawn, and white is just winning. So a couple waiting moves attempted, so to speak, over here on the queen side, but really one where we just needed to time things right. White is completely winning. Why is white winning? Outside pass pawn, great centralized king. Those are golden things in the end game. Let's take a look at the last one and the greatest player here, white pieces, Magnus Carlsen. This was, I believe, from the Tata Steel tournament 2016. Hu Yifan, the highest rated female player at the time, versus the highest rated chess player, Magnus. Queen trade here, and as is typical, Magnus was probably thinking this may objectively be a draw, but going to be tough for her. to defend. That's how Magnus is. He makes it tough. He's the master of applying pressure. White really has the better of this situation, although it's probably defensible. Needed to play a move like a5. Hard to see the whole thing from a distance, but she played instead h5. a5, by the way, slows down the white king. h5, and here you can already feel after the king starts to infiltrate. Here, we, white, want this king to move. We want to get into b6 and beautiful waiting moves. We have the h pawn. We have the c pawn or even the b pawn. We have waiting moves. A luxury that black does not have. h4. Black doesn't even have this one. You might think, why not just this one? We can even backtrack and go just capture it. King b8. King b6. And we've gotten our king to the optimal square. Now, just a little bit of technique, b5, and after an exchange, we're going to use one more of those moves we had in reserve. Again, we can't push the pawn, we can't make any progress, but a pass actually is the perfect remedy here. Now the king has to move for black. You should sense they're really running low on moves. No pawn moves are possible, only king moves. And she resigns here. Let's look a little further. Perhaps king b8. c6. The simplest way is just to exchange the pawns and then backtrack and collect. Really, all of the black pawns are going to fall. The king is just way out of position. So a really nice game by Magnus featuring two waiting moves, h4 and c3, to pass the turn and really often just to get where you want to go, to enter onto the other team's side of the board or take the next step forward with your king. Passing the move is a very powerful tool. So I hope that helps you understand a little better some of these ideas in the end game, and you're able to use this in your own games to hopefully pass the initiative back, have a sense of when this is approaching, and win more games that you are winning, and hopefully maybe save some of those draws as well. So good luck out there and keep playing chess.